Welcome to today's lesson on anaerobic respiration, where we will explore how cells release energy from glucose when oxygen is limited, specifically during vigorous exercise. In our roadmap for today, we will cover three key areas. Firstly, we will delve into the details of anaerobic respiration by understanding that it involves the incomplete oxidation of glucose. We will also look at the specific equations for anaerobic respiration in both animal cells and in plant and yeast cells. Secondly, we'll discuss the importance of fermentation in yeast for the manufacture of food and alcoholic drinks. Finally, we will compare aerobic respiration, which you have already learned about, to anaerobic respiration to highlight the differences and significance of each process, including the impacts on the human body. So far, you have learned about the process of aerobic respiration, a series of chemical reactions that occur in the cells of organisms to release energy from glucose. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen. Through this process, cells typically source energy efficiently. With this background, we can now introduce the concept of anaerobic respiration, which advances our biological understanding by demonstrating how cells adapt to low oxygen conditions. This is important for appreciating how our bodies and other organisms respond to and sustain vigorous activity or other challenging environments. In this lesson, we are going to explore anaerobic respiration, a process that occurs when cells need to produce energy, but oxygen is not available in sufficient quantities. This typically happens during vigorous exercise when your muscles are working so hard that your body cannot supply them with all the oxygen they need. During anaerobic respiration, glucose is not completely broken down, and there is a smaller release of energy compared to aerobic respiration. In animals, the equation for anaerobic respiration is glucose becomes lactic acid. During anaerobic respiration in animal cells, glucose is broken down into lactic acid, and a small amount of energy is released. This energy is sufficient to keep the cells functioning for a short period, but not as efficiently as when oxygen is available. In plant and yeast cells, a type of microorganism, the equation changes slightly. In this case, glucose becomes ethanol plus carbon dioxide. In these organisms, glucose is converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide, along with a small release of energy. This process in yeast is known as fermentation, which is economically important for the production of bread and alcoholic beverages. Anaerobic respiration in yeast is known as fermentation, a process that has been utilised by humans for thousands of years. As mentioned, anaerobic respiration in plant and yeast cells converts glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide. The byproducts of this reaction are economically important for the production of bread and alcoholic beverages. In bread making, the carbon dioxide produced by yeast during anaerobic respiration causes the dough to rise. In the production of alcoholic drinks, the ethanol produced is the alcohol found in beverages like beer and wine. Now let's compare aerobic and anaerobic respiration to understand their key differences. One of the most crucial differences is that aerobic respiration requires oxygen, whilst anaerobic respiration occurs when there is insufficient oxygen. This key difference makes the processes of aerobic and anaerobic respiration completely different. For example, aerobic respiration involves the complete oxidation of glucose, whereas anaerobic respiration only involves incomplete oxidation. Aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration also have different byproducts. Aerobic respiration produces carbon dioxide and water as byproducts, whilst anaerobic respiration produces lactic acid in animals and carbon dioxide and ethanol in plants or yeast. Furthermore, these processes release different amounts of energy, with aerobic respiration releasing larger amounts of energy than anaerobic respiration. Aerobic and anaerobic respiration also occur in different places within the cell, with aerobic respiration taking place in the mitochondria and anaerobic respiration occurring in the cytoplasm. Finally, aerobic and anaerobic respiration take place in different circumstances. Aerobic respiration is used during normal, moderate activities, whilst anaerobic respiration takes place during intense activities when oxygen is scarce. This final point also relates to the physiological impacts of anaerobic respiration. When anaerobic respiration occurs in animal cells during periods of intense activity, the build-up of lactic acid from anaerobic respiration can lead to muscle cramps and fatigue. This is why after intense exercise, you might need some time to recover as your body works hard to remove the excess lactic acid and provide oxygen to your muscles. To sum up, anaerobic respiration is an essential process allowing cells to produce energy without oxygen, although less efficiently than aerobic respiration. We need to remember that the equations for anaerobic respiration are slightly different for animal or plant and yeast cells. In animals, anaerobic respiration leads to the production of lactic acid, while in plants and yeast, it results in ethanol and carbon dioxide. We also learned about the process of fermentation, which occurs when anaerobic respiration takes place in yeast. This process of fermentation is very economically important in human activities, such as bread making and the production of alcohol. Finally, we looked at comparisons between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Understanding the differences in applications of anaerobic versus aerobic respiration allows us to understand how organisms generate energy and adapt to their environments, which has practical implications in health, industry, and science. For example, we can appreciate how our bodies adapt to different levels of physical activity, with anaerobic respiration during intense exercise producing lactic acid, causing muscle aches or cramps, which require time to recover.